All right, sixth grade. Well, today we are going to look at graphing on the coordinate plane. Okay, this is something that you probably have seen before, so hopefully it's a pretty easy lesson for you. But this is all about graphing on the coordinate plane. Okay, now with graphing, you're going to see a lot of this in real life. Okay, this is going to be something that you actually use, especially when looking at maps. If you've ever played Battleship before, you've graphed on a coordinate plane. All right. And then, it's kind of the lovely game these days. The old fork knife actually has a graph on a coordinate plane. Also, okay? So let's just go ahead and jump into the lesson. The first thing we're going to talk about is how do you locate and name points in the coordinate plane? That's our central question for today. I'm going to warn you, there's a lot of vocabulary terms. So if you'll kind of jot these down, or the ones I tell you to down, it's important to take good notes because there's a lot of vocabulary in the fact of what axis is this, just things like that. Okay, but let's start off with the first coordinate plane. So write all of these down on a clean sheet of paper on this page, if you will. But the coordinate plane is going to be formed by two number lines that intersect at right angles. The point of intersection is 0 on each number line. So we talked the number lines a long way back. All right, and with those number lines, remember, they go on forever, but we only see like a snippet of it or just kind of a picture of it. So with that number line, where 0 is, that's going to be where the points intersect or where the lines intersect. So then we're going to be able to kind of have a coordinate plane to where we can locate things on this big map, so to speak. Okay. Now, what we call this is the coordinate plane. On the coordinate plane, there are two axes. All right. We're going to say the plural version. So axes. I think that's how you say it anyhow. But that's going to be the two number lines. Okay. We've got the two axes. It's going to be the x axis is going to be the horizontal axis. So remember, if you look out to the horizon, you're looking at the horizontal horizon. And then the vertical is up and down. And that's going to be the y axis. Okay. So the y axis goes up and down. The x axis is vertical. I'm going to go ahead and move on, but please pause the video and make sure you have these words copied down. Next thing we have is origin. Okay. The origin is what we talked about, the point being 0, 0. Okay. It's where those two number lines intersect. So 0, 0, where the two number lines intersect. And then we have these things called quadrants. Okay. Quadrants. What a quadrant is, and it's kind of really weird, but it's sections of this number line. So if they intersect at a right angle, there's going to be four different sections. Okay. The upper right, the upper left, the lower left, and the lower right. That's actually, we're going to give those things or give those quadrants a number too: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we'll get to that in a minute. But last is ordered pair. Ordered pair is going to be kind of the roadmap or the instructions to get where we're going. Okay, kind of like the directions. So if we see this as a big map, we're going to use the ordered pair as directions to find what we're looking for. Okay, so go ahead and copy those three words and their definitions down again, please. All right, so coordinates, they're going to be the numbers in an ordered pair. Okay, and we're going to have two of those again, the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So the thing about these coordinates is when we write them like this. Okay, the x coordinate is always going to come first, and then the y coordinate is going to come second. So when I'm graphing one of these, the x coordinate is going to tell me where to go on the x axis. So do I go right 4? Do I go left 4? Do I go right 7, left 7? So the x axis is all about left and right. Okay, left and right. The y-axis, or the second number in an ordered pair, is about up and down. So the y-axis is going to say, are we going up 7, down 7, up 3, down 3, maybe even up 0. If it's up 0, that's just going to be a line that's on the x-axis or a point on the x-axis. Okay, so that's how we look at these ordered pairs, and that's how we read them. All right. The first number is always the x-axis. The second number is the y-axis. Go ahead and copy those down if you will. All right. So what I would like for you to do on your notes, we're kind of done with definitions now, but on your notes, I want you to make me 4 boxes just like this, and then give me 2 number lines in them. Okay, so make a cross like that, and then we're going to talk about quadrants. Okay, so the first quadrant I'm going to talk about is Q1. Q1, we're always going to write these in Roman numeral form. So 1 as a Roman numeral, Roman numeral, sorry, I can't talk, looks like that. Okay, and this is going to be quadrant 1. Now, the thing about quadrant 1 is the X and the Y are going to be positive numbers. Okay, so both the numbers are positive. So if I'm looking for something in quadrant 1, both my numbers are going to be positive. Quadrant 2, my x-axis is going to be negative and my y-axis is going to be positive. Okay, so an example of that would be -1, 2. So I would go left 1, up 2, and I would have a point somewhere about right there. So left 1, up 2. Now, we also use Roman numerals when describing this. So the Roman numeral for 2 is going to look something like that. All right, so this is in quadrant 2. Now, on your homework, I think you've got 4 questions like this or 3 questions like this. I can't remember how I set it up, but you're actually going to have to know the Roman numerals. Okay, so if you get confused with those Roman numerals, make sure to come back to this page and we'll actually tell you quadrant 1 looks like that, quadrant 2 looks like that. Okay, but quadrant 3, let's talk about quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, the first thing we're going to do is Roman numeral is going to be 3 lines now. And then both of my numbers are going to be negative. So the first number is negative, the second number is negative. The x-axis is negative, the y-axis is negative. So we're going to go left and down. Okay, left and down. I'm gonna go ahead and write those arrows on those two because I think that's something good you should know too. So quadrant 3, you're going to go left and down. So you've got a negative x and a negative y. Last thing we're going to go to is quadrant 4. Now, quadrant 4, you're actually going to write like this as a Roman numeral. Okay? And on this one, your first number is going to be positive. Sorry, I just dropped the marker in my classroom. But your first number is going to be positive. Your second number is going to be negative. So your x is positive, y is negative. All right? So you're going to go to the right and then down when you read these. Now, I know I've thrown a ton of information at you with all this, but if you would go ahead and copy this down in your book, don't worry about, or in your book or in your notebook, don't worry about any of these numbers, anything like that. Okay, I just need like a cross here, and I want you to see what's happening with each quadrant. Okay, what's happening with each quadrant. Now, once you get this copied down, go ahead and continue the video, but pause it and finish. Okay, so I've got your first example. On this example, identify the coordinates of each point. Name the quadrant where each point is located. Okay? So remember, this is like you're telling me directions on how to find this first green dot on the top. Okay? So to find the first green dot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 2. Now I'm going to use different colors on this. You don't have to or anything, but that way it just kind of shows us how we're getting there. Okay, so I went over 2. So that's going to be my x-axis. Okay, I go to the right 2. Now, to get to my green dot, I'm going to go up 3. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm at my dot. So my second number is going to be 3. All right. So over 2, up 3. Now, the second question with this is what quadrant is this located? So I've got my ordered pair. Now I need the quadrant. Well, first off, I see it's in this quadrant. Okay. And we should know what quadrant that is. But if I don't, I know that my first number is positive and my second number is positive. So if you look on the notes we just took, If the first number is positive and the second number is positive, that's going to be quadrant 1. Okay, so that one's in quadrant 1. Now, pause the video real quick and see if you can tell me where that second dot is. Okay, also see if you can tell me what quadrant that's in. All right, so remember, I go left to right first. Okay, so I'm going to go left 1, and then I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and I'm at that dot. All right, so I went left 1, which to go to the left, you'll see negative numbers. Okay, so I went left 1, and then you'll also see going down, I've got negative numbers. So I'm going to go down negative, all right, and I go to negative 5. So negative 1, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm at that green dot. Okay, and if you look before, a negative and a negative is going to put you in quadrant 3. Okay, so it's like instructions, and now I've got to be able to read the reversal of that too. Okay, so I've got to look at these two numbers and know which direction I'm headed in. Okay, so the way I see it is this is a map for me. Okay, so 2, 3. So both those are positive, so I go positive 2, up 1, 2, 3, and I'm at my green dot. Then at the bottom, it's another road map. Okay, I go left 1, negative 5, down 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at my green dot. So you've got to be able to see the coordinates as well and let them show you where to go with those. Okay. All right. So let's try this. I've got my two axes. Okay. My x-axis and my y-axis. Now, I'm going to go ahead and number these for you. I've got 1. Here, let's do it in black. That way it shows up better. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the left, I'm in negative numbers now. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5 is over here. And then going down, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Okay. And this is the lovely fork knife map. So we're going to find where Coral Castle is. Okay. If you land here, 3 of those men is going to pop up, and it's just going to be a not lovely situation, but it's kind of like Atlantis. So Coral Castle. Okay. I look and I find Coral Castle right here. So I've got to tell you where that red dot is. Okay. For Coral Castle that I just underlined. So the first thing I'm going to do is read my x-axis. Okay. My x-axis. So on the x-axis, to get up to here, I go left 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I know I'm going left 3. Now I've got to go up. So up is positive, down is negative. Left is negative, right is positive. All right, so I know I've got to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm at the old Coral Castle. So my point for Coral Castle is negative 3, 3. Okay. You go ahead and try Lazy Lake. Lazy Lake is right here. There's a bunch of tall buildings here. It's next to a lake. Yeah, it's not a cool place to go. I usually die pretty quickly here. But see if you can tell me how to get to Leslie Lake, Lazy Lake. All right. So remember, we start with the x-axis. Okay. With the x-axis, we're going to start by going right 2. Okay. Right 2. So 1, 2. So my first number is going to be positive 2 because it's to the right. Then I go down 2. 1, 2. Okay. So down 2, if I go down, it's negative. So I've got -2. Okay. Weeping Woods. Weeping Woods. You try Weeping Woods, which is right here, and then you try Holly Hedges, which is right here. Okay. So Weeping Woods and Holly Hedges. All right. Pause the video if you are not done. But for Weeping Woods first. Okay. Weeping Woods. I am going to go left 1, down 1. So both my numbers are negative. So left 1, down 1. So -1, -1. And then Holly's Hedges, I go left 3, but I don't move. So on Holly's Hedges, I'm going to go left 3 for the x-axis, but the y-axis, I don't move. So to represent doing nothing on the y-axis, I'm going to put a 0. Okay? So -3, and I stay at 0. All right? Now, once again, we're going to look at this the opposite way in finding my directions through this. So Coral Castle, if I'm trying to get to Coral Castle, I go left 3 and then up 3. So -3, 3, -3, 3, Coral Castle. If I'm trying to find Lazy Lake, 2, -2. So I go 2, -2, Lazy Lake. All right. If I'm trying to find Weeping Woods, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go -1, -1. So left 1, down 1. And then Holly Hedges, -3. Okay. Let's see. I got Steamy Stacks marks on here. Craggy Cliffs. Well, let me get a number that shows up. Steamy, Craggy, Dirty Docks right there. Got the everybody's favorite place. Ooh, let's try that one actually, because that one kind of scares me. Okay. Salty Towers scares me in one way than one, or more ways than one. But even graphing it, it's going to be a pain to graph. Okay. So what I'm going to do for Salty is I'm going to go left 1. All right. We can show that. Left 1. But I'm not going to go up 1, because if I went up 1, I would be right here. So I can go and put left 1 in, -1, but I don't fully go all the way up to 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go halfway. And when I go halfway, I go halfway. Okay, so 0.5. So this is something you probably won't see, or I know you won't see today, but you may find yourself with this, okay? Especially if we're looking at scales or looking at something like that, which we'll talk about in a minute, okay? So if both coordinates of a point are negative, in which quadrant is the point located? So negative as in going left, negative as in going down. So you've got the bottom left one, and that's going to be quadrant 3. Okay. So quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is going to be right 3 and up 3. So both those numbers are positive. So explain why -3, 5 represents a different location than 3, 5. Well, -3 is different than 3. -3, 5, I'm going to the left 3 spaces first, then going up 5. 3, 5, both of those are positive, so I'm going right 3 spaces and then up to the 5th one. Okay, and that's why that happens. All right. So obviously you can't write this, but pause the video for just a second, look on your screen, and see if you can go to -5, 2 for A, 3 and 1.5 for B, and C, 0, -3. All right. So pause, see if you can do that, and then I will answer them in just a second. All right. So for A, I've got -5 and then up 2. All right. I'm going to label that point A. B, I've got 3 and 1.5. Both those numbers are positive, so I'm going to go to the right, then I'm going to go up. So 1, 2, 3. And then after I get to 3, I'm going to go up 1.5. So there's 1, and then there's a half. So right there is going to be point B. Okay, point B. And then lastly, point C, I've got 0, -3. So if I've got 0 as my first number, I don't go left or right, and then I just go down 3. So I stay on that y-axis. Remember, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. All right. Now, question right here. The blue dot / red dot I just drew, what do we call that? Ah, great job. That is the point of origin. Okay. The point of origin where the two lines cross. You're doing a great job. Now, this is one of the last few things I'm going to talk to you about today, but this can get a little tricky. Okay. The scale of an axis is the number of units that each grid line represents. What are the scales of the following graphs? All right. So the graph in the middle, this is normal. I'm counting by ones. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up on the y-axis, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down on the y-axis, okay? But on the left, it looks like I'm counting by twos, okay? But just like the question a second ago, I could actually label, if I had something other than a smartboard, I could label in between those, okay? But we don't want to scrunch up the numbers and we don't want it to look bad, so we can just read that as 1, okay? But sometimes on the right, you either count by twos, five, tens, whatever it may be, just like on a graph, and you go by tens, 20s. You scale up. Oh, look at that math word. Won't you look at that? But you scale up, okay? And if you scale up or scale down or whatever it may be, you're going to count by tens. So say I had the point 30, 50. I don't want to make 30 little boxes nor 50 little boxes. So if I truly wanted to graph that and wanted to draw every single box so counted by ones, I would have to draw 50 lines up and down, 50 lines for the bottom. So that's 100 lines in total for that. And then 60 lines from left to right. So that's a lot of a graph to graph. Okay. So what I'm going to do is scale it like this. That way I can just go right 30, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50. And the point is right there. Okay. So that's all about a scale. So let's try one with a scale. Okay. Now I don't like this, but my city dot, that's on the point of origin. Okay. That's on the point of origin. And before we get into Gary and Jen, because Gary and Jen are being complicated as usual, try to find that dot first. We're going to call this dot Larry. I like Larry. Larry's an easygoing guy. So find Larry's point. All right. So I do my x-axis first, then my y-axis. So my x-axis is going to go right 30. So that's going to be positive 30. And then I'm going to go down 20. So my point where Larry's at is 30, negative 20. Now, let's jump in and see where Jen's at. Jen's being stubborn, and Jen is in between two boxes. Okay? So with Jen being in between two boxes, what we're going to do for that is we're just going to kind of guesstimate. So I would say Jen's dot's about right there. So I'm going to go with 5. So Jen's first number is going to be 5. And then the y-axis, I'm going to go up 10, we'll say about 16. Okay, so 516 for Jen. Now, here's the thing. Me, the person trying to copy off your paper to the right now, or anybody else, we don't know exactly where that dot is because it's not to scale. Okay, it's not to scale. So this one's going to be hard to graph. And what you always need to do on ones like this is label. Because guess what? If you label it and it's remotely close, I'm going to count it right. Miss Parrish is going to count it right. Miss Klein's going to count it right. Okay? So try Gary. I would say Gary, his line's about right here and right here. Okay? So try to get Gary's coordinate. All right. So the first thing, the x-axis for Gary's coordinate, I go left 15, and then I go up about 16 again. So negative 15, 16. Gary's coordinate is labeled. That means we're correct. All right. Now, Jen is located in quadrant 1, correct. Gary is located in quadrant 2, great job. And then Larry is located in quadrant 4. You're doing a great job. All right. So that's going to wrap up the lesson for tonight, today, whatever this is. I don't know. It's 10:53 on a Sunday night, but it's okay. But in class tomorrow or whatever, or at home, you are going to be working on a Googly form. Okay. The Googly form is 20 questions. You've got 10 questions where you are saying, or it's giving you the coordinates, and you're saying what letter is at that coordinates. Then you've got, I think it's 6 questions to where you are actually giving the coordinates. Okay. That's going to be multiple choice. And then you've got 3 questions saying what quadrant that point is in. Okay. So now, I think the last question too. I know that doesn't add up to 20. That's 19. The last question, it does ask kind of your thoughts on the coordinate plane, and with that question, it's going to be right no matter which answer you choose. So be honest with that and tell us how you're feeling about this. Okay. That way we can know whether to move on or stay, or if we need another couple more days of this, or what's the problem with it. Okay. All right. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope you have enjoyed the coordinate plane.